I've been able to get to a healthy space when thinking about death last night, and I think I was able to do that because I finally accepted that those thoughts about death would come, have and will come in waves through stimulus independent and stimulus dependent thoughts. For example, an example of stimulus independent thinking would be through when it seemingly just comes out of nowhere, like when I'm just in bed thinking and then it seemingly just pops out of nowhere. That would be an example of a stimulus independent thought. And then a stimulus dependent thought through the lens of death would be, for example, seeing news about someone dying, or hearing someone in my personal life saying someone's died, or maybe even hearing a stranger talk about it, I don't know, on the bus or on the train, for example, something like that. In the past, this wouldn't be something that I'd accept. I just, when it come to thinking about death through the stimulus independent lens, I just feel overwhelmed with the idea of death, because I'd be so busy thinking about what would happen, what happens from not a scientific perspective, but through an experience perspective. What happens when we die? What do we experience? And those sorts of thoughts based around that idea, that question, which I'll never get the answer to, maybe even in death, because a fundamental part of being dead is a lack of consciousness and a lack of ability to be able to think. But when I would think about that idea, I feel so scared. I feel so worried, and I just break down mentally. Like, I've been thinking about it, like I've had a panic attack about those sorts of thoughts. Here, in this very room, and also downstairs in the kitchen. And with the examples that I've been able to come up with when I would experience such things, such overwhelm, such a feeling of overwhelming, such an intensely uncomfortable feeling physically that I'd find so difficult to cope with, I noticed that these sorts of thoughts would happen at night, when I wouldn't be purposely trying to use my brain to do things. That's where the stimulus independent thinking comes in. And I think that could be the case because that I might have a lot of brain power left, but that because I'm not going out my way to use that left brain power and not purposely going out my way to exhaust my mind of its energy, I'd kind of just do it without even much thinking through those stimulus independent thoughts, regardless of what they're about. Yeah. And I've come to the same sort of way of thinking with conflict as well. Like, I try and evade it. Maybe even in the house, we're trying to not argue with family. It's just, conflict is a part of human interaction, and it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. There's no avoiding it. It eventually will happen through maybe you saying, you talking to someone about something you feel unhappy with, or someone doing the same to you, expressing something that you may have done that they feel unhappy with. It's only a matter of time, and there's no avoiding that. And because of this way of thinking I've now gained, I think I'm more willing to accept such things, such thoughts about conflict, for example. I wouldn't have a problem with that anywhere near as much as I would with the thoughts I'd have about death, particularly, as I said, about trying to not feel overwhelmed of what happens from an experience perspective when we do die, not from a scientific one, not from a scientific perspective. Outside of that, I've got a whole load of notes that I wrote down. Let's see. Right. At first glance, my first point, I wasn't sure if that was relevant to this video, but I'd say it definitely is. I said, I recorded myself watching YouTube and I discovered a main reason to why I stay surfing the internet, emotional charge. This is something that I remember Healthy Gamer GG talking about actually, and it's not something that I notice in the moment, like at all, through when I just be watching videos, whether it be videos that I've made or videos that other people have made, but it's definitely there. And when I was recording myself through the camera, and I was recording myself just on the phone watching videos, I was able to realise it and not become so oblivious of this happening. That's worn off, but it's definitely there, and I think it's probably something I should do, not just during the night time, but also maybe even the afternoon too, and realise I'm doing that same sort of thing over and over and over again. I'm providing myself social needs which I'm not really getting anywhere else, which is actually one of the other points that I made. But I'll go on to the second one that I made, and it's about different perspectives. I said different perspectives could be helpful to develop constructive insight on something. For example, recording yourself doing the thing you want insight on, which was in this case me just staying on YouTube just all throughout the night and finding it difficult to sleep because I'd be doing that. At the time of the recording and also up until now, I forgot that of course you stay up at night partially because of blue light, which secretes melatonin production, which makes you feel sleepy, if I'm not mistaken. So that's definitely a part of why I'd stay up. But as for why I'd keep on watching the videos outside of that reason, outside of the screens affecting hormone release, it would be because of emotional charging. That is, like, being on YouTube for so long, watching videos is not only a way to monitor the upload of my videos, but it's also something that I think I'm using as a crutch. I'm looking at my phone. That's why I look there. It's something that I use as a crutch to not really need to go out my way to develop friendships, which would be way healthier than me staying on YouTube all day and all night, both watching videos and also staying on YouTube to monitor the upload of my videos. I predict, because of this idea that I have, that I'm allowing YouTube to cater to my social needs predominantly. I predict that when I move, for example, if I go out my way to talk to many people and develop healthy, trustworthy and genuine relationships more than I've done over here, I probably wouldn't want to go and watch YouTube as much, because I'd be catering toward my social needs. I'd no longer be as socially isolated as I currently am. or as I'm currently letting myself be. At this point, before moving, I'm not thinking of making that change, but when I move, I'd say I definitely will go out my way to interact with people in the same way that I did in the gyms that I've gone to where I'm currently living, but except I just wouldn't be interacting with people in the gyms in the same way I have done. I just do that in the calisthenics parks because I prefer the environment in the calisthenics parks more than in the gym, because it just, to me, it seems more social, because you hear more people talking rather than hearing music blasting. Although I definitely don't doubt that you'd hear music blasting in calisthenics parks, but even still, I think that you still hear a lot of people talking. There's a lot more conversations happening and a lot more of a want for a community to connect and be closely knit in a healthy way. Maybe my perspective isn't accurate, but it's just what I think at the moment from even training in the playground park, where I talk to people more in the park than I would in the gym, because everyone's so focused on themselves in the gym, whereas it's just, that's not the case in the park. And I like that. It doesn't seem like everyone's to themselves. It, to me, seems more like you could have a conversation with strangers in a park than, say, strangers in a gym, because everyone's too busy trying to work out to whichever level that they'd want, whether it be light, moderate, or in. This is my third point after what I've just said. I've been using YouTube like it's my best friend for around 10 years now, through listening to music, for example, exercise vids, as it provides me my social needs I'm not getting anywhere else. I personally think that there are many common traits between YouTube's recommendation and who people consider their best friend or best friends. For example, the YouTube algorithm would recommend you things that you think you'd want, just like how a best friend might. And you'd interact with those sorts of things over and over and over again, and those sorts of things would change. The sorts of experiences from an emotional perspective you'd have would also change, almost as if you're having a conversation with a best friend, in ways you'd smile with them, with interacting with them, just like how you'd smile from time to time. Maybe when watching a YouTube video, you might feel sad when your best friend talks to you about a certain thing, same way you might feel sad when you see a certain YouTube video that they've recommended you. Just like how, again, going back, it's a best friend thing, you might feel sad when a best friend's spoken to you about something. The algorithm and the sort of conversations you'd have with a best friend seem very similar to me. Is the sort of emotional experiences you have, they flow, I'd say, and it seems kind of natural the way how they flow with a conversation with a best friend, for example, and with the sort of videos that we'd watch and that we get recommended as we keep on watching YouTube for hours on end. It slightly changes, and I'm fully convinced that this is outside of the point, but it's kind of like a sub point to this main one that I'm giving. I'm fully convinced that YouTube recommends certain videos at certain times, almost as if it knows what we're thinking. But I think that's because we might, out of habit, watch certain things at certain times. For example, we might watch certain TV shows as after coming home from work, and hence YouTube might recommend those TV shows at that specific time, which you might not have otherwise done if you were to say, if you hadn't got back from work and it's whatever time it is. Because one time I was thinking of a certain some music and at a specific time, and YouTube just had it there as the top recommendation. But because we see the phone as a tool or a resource rather than a friend, it seems that we bring this piece of technology that we might use like a best friend more into our lives. Like we would have it with us like 24/7, every single day, interacting with it every single day. And in the context of thinking of it like how you think of a friendship, it seems like, if anything, like being on YouTube is kind of like the friend you like, but the friend that is like extremely invasive, just there with you 24/7. There aren't like really any boundaries unless you make them. Those and those sorts of things. These thoughts, they might seem a bit odd, they might not seem like they make all that much sense, but it's this way of thinking that I've come up with is very new. So I just have to bear with myself on that one. I think I had another point as well. Point 4, yeah, about constructive thoughts. So here goes. Before I go on to it though, a thought came up about how I think about death again, with it in terms of like how it comes in waves. Sometimes when I feel fear about the thoughts of death that I might have every now and then, I'm not sure that I'd consider the fact that those thoughts do come and go. They eventually go, because I do have plans and things that I'd want to do in the day, and death isn't the only thing that there is to living. It's not, for example, not every single shop that you go to and not every single person that you'd interact with is thinking about death 24/7. But in the moment of overwhelm that I'd experience, it's like it is like that, and it's like there is no escape from those sorts of thoughts at the moment, within the moment. And because I'd make it seem like I wouldn't be able to cope with those sorts of thoughts because I'd try and avoid them, I just experienced so much overwhelm because it was like in my mind that I just could not cope with those thoughts due to a lack of acceptance that those thoughts come and go, and that's completely normal, I think. Because it's not like I'm thinking of being a murder victim and that's on my mind every single day. That's not the case. I don't live my life illegally, and I don't put myself in harm's way for that to happen. But thinking about the idea of death and what it'd be like, I think if it's every now and then, what's so abnormal with that? Those sorts of thoughts, I think if I really wanted to, I probably could minimize them through giving myself less of a window for stimulus independent thinking, through especially at night, because that would be when the sorts of thoughts come. So in order to do that, I would recommend to myself that I exercise at night before going to bed. And if I feel like really alert, like I'm finding it extremely difficult to sleep because the bed feels uncomfortable, for example, I could just work out. I could just go out my way to tire myself. I could go in the garden, for example, and do a few push-ups and do some burpees and things like that to just tire myself out. Like have an intense cardio session is what I'm saying. Do fast reps and go out my way to do high volume stuff. Yeah, and then by the time I've done that, on the premise I've done it effectively, that I wouldn't be thinking about those thoughts of death, and I'd be putting up a boundary towards feeling overwhelmed from those sorts of thoughts, because I'd be involving myself in something that's not only not something that's physically demanding and cognitively demanding. When I'm not doing that, that experience of overwhelm I might experience that sort of overwhelm if I don't do that. Because I just want to use my brain a lot, and I think a lot. I talk a lot too when it comes to these videos. Sometimes too much when I think about, like, during the exercise logs, but I can work on that. Yeah, anyway, I'm done with that. Now, on to point 4. Constructive thoughts every day. For example, when I had them at dusk at 8 PM in summer, onwards with no screens, is a vital part of our health / necessary for a healthy state of mind, short and long term, as it partially determines our behaviour through developing or not developing, if we don't have this period in our lives every day, developing our mindset on things, and therefore is how we determine the things that we do every day, which determines our state of health. This is in reference to an idea that's in my personal training manual, and it says within the BPS model, the biopsychosocial model, that our health is made of 4 constituent factors. A biological factor like age, genetics, family history. A psychological factor, I've forgotten examples of this. I'm not sure if mindset would be a part of them, but it definitely is to do with psychology, is definitely to do with the mind. Behavioural is to do with behaviour as well, like the things that we decide to do on a daily basis, such as not drinking, not smoking, and social aspect too. How we the sort of people that we talk to, for example, peer pressure or lack thereof, those sorts of things. And I'm referring, within this point, I'm referring specifically to the behavioural aspect of our health, and I think that is a main part of that is mindset and the sorts of thoughts that we allow ourselves to think. And constructive thoughts, I think, allow us to cultivate a certain mindset towards different topics of life, which is how I got to the point of, at least in my opinion, having a more healthy way of thinking with death, based on the thoughts of death, because I'm not, when I went through those thoughts and I went through those experiences, which I also recorded, by the way, to get a different perspective on things, I was, as I've been editing this video, I've realised that what I was just about to say before the clip ended was missing, and I've written it down. With the help of the constructive thoughts, or giving myself a window for it, I was able to further work through the overwhelm that I was experiencing at the time of doing it,
at the time of having the thoughts, at least this time round, and also the fear too that I'd experience is the uncomfortable feeling that I'd have would be physical for me. It seems like that's how I'd feel my emotions, that I'd physically feel them, and they'd come from the sub vocal thoughts that I'd have in my head. When I'd have them, it'd then lead to those physiological responses that I'd feel really uncomfortable with, and then when I would experience that, I'd just associate thoughts on death with that fear. But in my mind, I don't think I associated it with the night time, which is when I'd be not really using my mind. I'd just be trying to get to sleep, even if I feel alert. Yeah. And with the help of giving myself that period for constructive thoughts, I was then able to work through that, and I can now see how much power that can have, and how much of what I genuinely think is an important skill for emotion regulation and to stay in control of ourselves from a mental state standpoint, seeing as how we feel when we think about certain things is a part of that, is a part of our mental state and emotional health. I think you could call it that, because emotional quotients definitely exists. I mean, you've got IQ, you've got your intelligence quotient, but you also have an emotion quotient, which is just basically how well you can regulate your emotion and how much you're in tune with your emotions, basically. I've never taken an EQ test, but I think seeing as I've got a laptop out here, maybe I could type emotional quotient test. But yeah, outside of that, which I'll do in a few seconds, the last thing that I wanted to make note of is I definitely care, starting from last night, or now even, sorry, as I make this at around about 8:09 or 7:09 according to the time on the laptop. I care about having a period for constructive thoughts every day, as I could see how much help they could be with regulating my emotional state. Alright, I've said everything I need to say, and I will let the next clip play, but I'll just very quickly go and see if there's an EQ test. It might be helpful for me to take that, and if I do, I'll make an update. It's called emotional there's emotional intelligence, that's just popped up, but emotional quotient, I'm looking for that. Yeah, I was able to find it. And apparently, according to the first thing that's popped up on Google when typing in emotional quotient, is from www.healthguide.org. Improving emotional intelligence, in brackets EQ, emotional quotient. What is EQ? EQ is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. Yeah, I didn't think it was all that, as I said the first time, but that didn't get caught on camera, unfortunately. It is something that I'm willing to agree with, because when I think of emotional quotient, I think of how well you can manage your emotions, and I think that definition is a lot more of a general idea of what emotional quotient is, whereas this goes into more detail as to what managing your emotions entails. I wouldn't have thought of it through the context of speaking to other people, for example, talking about diffusing conflict, but then again, it's not just with other people, you could be in a conflict too. That's a very deep topic, but I'll leave that for now. Anyway, as I was saying, I can take a test and see if there are any out there, and just see where I could go with that, improving my mental health through becoming more in tune with my emotions, maybe. I found what are the 5 emotional quotients in the people also are section, first tab. Goldman, according to EWFinternational.com, what are the five emotional quotient? Question mark. That's what it says word for word. Goldman, whoever that is, EQ theory comprises 5 core components: empathy, effective communication or social skills. That's the second time I've heard communication. Interesting. Self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation. Hey, there you go. That's a little bit here and there on EQ, but that's for another day. And on that note, on to the rest of the video.
And if we don't go out of our way to have those sorts of thoughts and give us that window for constructive thinking, then we might just go and do anything, for the better or for the worse. We are putting ourselves in a position to be potentially the passive receiver of anything that comes our way. And that's in reference to Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. That's how Napoleon described it, I think. Personally, to me, constructive thoughts are a necessary part of living a healthy life. Having a window for that every day is like a non-scientific way of developing healthy thoughts, perhaps, on anything. It could be anything that comes up to mind, like how I've been speaking about death, maybe even sleep, nutrition, exercise, what we're doing in our lives on a daily basis, those sorts of things. I wonder if I have any sorts of extra points. No, I think that's it. But deep talk aside, I was up, came off the screens at maybe, I don't know, 8 o'clock, and then I was just on and off really. 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock I was recording myself on the phone through the camera, and then maybe 11:30 I went back on because I didn't think I was going to get any sleep, and I didn't think I was going to be able to go to sleep and then wake up when I wanted to wake up, which was 2:30. I thought I gave myself ample time to be able to go to bed and sleep, but thoughts were racing. In order to sleep when I go to bed, and therefore increase my sleep efficiency, perhaps I should give myself the space for constructive thoughts before going to bed. And then from there, when it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep. When I'm in bed, it's time to sleep, and that's that. It's for sleep and sleep only. So maybe I should just, if I want to have constructive thoughts on a daily basis, which I do, I should do that just out of the bed, whether it be sitting on the chair or in the garden, so that I have that window to think constructively and to put thoughts into, and to cultivate a certain type of thoughts and thinking, which I develop on every night. And then when it's time for me to go to bed, I'd then be able to just go and then sleep. I'm even figuring that out as I'm going along, so that I can live as healthily as I'd like. Yeah. And if I don't think that would be as helpful as doing something else would be, then I'd eventually change it, but it's just an idea for now. So after going back on the screens at around 12:30 for some reason, I think it was because I was thinking about, I was recording my thoughts on death, and I was just up from doing that. I was feeling hungry, so I eventually got something to eat, and then from there I think I maybe eventually fell asleep at 3 in the morning, then got up at around 10, something like that. And then I was in and out of bed since, and it's getting on to maybe 4 o'clock. I've been in and out of bed since 10 o'clock in the morning when I woke up. I've just been, I haven't had my plans with me like right in my face, so I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted to do throughout the day. It's something that I've been wanting to do, a habit I've been wanting to build, but I just forgot. I forgot what I was doing. I mean, I was having something to eat in between this time. I had something to eat. I got a second SD card. That was it. Dad very kindly gave me an SD card because a long while ago I was saying that I'd like to buy myself one. And yeah, I was just, he'd done what he wanted to do with it, and I was just looking through the SD card for a while to just check that there's nothing there of his which I could, for example, accidentally upload on here as I'm going through the editing process. That definitely could have happened because I'd write down the image file of the thumbnail, and then the image files or the movie files of the clips that I've used to make the video. So that definitely could have happened if I had made one minor mistake. But yeah, that is it really. Sleep quality. My eyes felt drowsy, my eyes felt like heavy. But I felt physically, other than that, I felt refreshed. Eye moisture is something I don't really know how to cultivate. I don't really know. I think the most I really know that I could think of is just wherever my cloth is, just like pour hot water on that and then just do that to put the cloth on my face. But other than that, don't really know what else to do. Rinsing my face would help, but yeah, throughout the day, especially because I wouldn't be drinking much water, my body wouldn't have much fluid for my body as a whole, the eyes included. So maybe that's a part of it, and I might need to go out my way to consciously drink water throughout the night for that reason, so that I don't have like really heavy eyes from lack of water or something. I don't really know. But that's it really. I think what I should do is maybe allow myself to have constructive thoughts before going to bed, in the evening or at night, but before tucking myself in. And then I'll just sleep, and hopefully after long enough I would have improved my sleep efficiency by doing that, by basically immediately going to sleep, or going to sleep a short while after going to bed, which I definitely don't do when I had my constructive, what I thought were my constructive thoughts. That actually significantly decreases my sleep efficiency now that I think about it, because when I'm thinking and I'm having those thoughts, I'm making it more difficult for myself to, as my eye is twitching a little bit, I'd be making it more difficult for myself to sleep as quickly as possible after going to bed. Yeah, so I'll change where I have these thoughts from now on, but I still want to have them for the sake of improving my health. Well, there's one thing that I've now put in the bio of this channel, and it's about education on a daily basis. And in order to improve my sleep routine, I do have my book, and there are YouTube videos that I could watch, articles on sleep, etc. So as I just work toward educate myself on a daily basis with every aspect of life, I could just keep on learning from all the sources that are around. Yeah, but that's it. I don't have anything else to say, so cheers to improving my health, and Cheers to improve my sleep long term, bit by bit, piece by piece, and day by day, through logs like these, making it very easy for myself to figure things out. Peace.